famcastmedia, bitch.
Lucky 13 Podcast.
Saloon in the back of Lucky 13 Saloon in front of the stage at Lucky 13 Saloon. What's happening?
What's up?
We got Dee.
Yo.
We got Jamal.
What's up?
And very special guest today. We got Adam Dubin.
Yo.
Good to meet. Good to have you here, man.
Yeah, as always.
Good, man. Real quick before we get started, I just want to shout out to, we lost a good friend of the Lucky 13 this week, guy Chris from Human Decline, and he was in Cousin the Sleaze. He was now in a band called The Revenant, and he passed away yesterday, which is freaking crazy.
Yeah.
Young dude, in shape too. I don't know what happened, but shout out to him and his family. That sucks. All right, Adam, what's up, man?
How are you?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm good. Good to see you.
So Adam's resume is fucking amazing. He's done some crazy shit. God, from the Beastie Boys to Metallica, and then the Murder in the Front Row. I mean, that Murder in the Front Row documentary, that was fucking amazing, man.
Thank
amazing.
you so much.
Yeah. How I mean that, and then you're working on. Could we talk about the horror movie too? You doing
Yeah.
too? We got
Yeah.
horror movie
A little
coming.
bit,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Yeah. I'll get to.
I mean, it's early, but I could certainly tell you what I can tell you.
Nice. So you still. Well, I guess we'll kind of start from the beginning. So you were in college with Rick Rubin.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is the tricky hand of fate.
Yeah.
I no plan to it, and Rick Rubin then wasn't the Rick Rubin. He's a guy in his second year of college at NYU.
Yeah.
And just I don't know, maybe they thought our names rhymed or something. Rubin and Dubin.
Right.
Could have started a law firm or something, but we were just like, it was just like, hey, this is your roommate. I was like, okay. And obviously a very, very cool dude. Certainly knew, he was 19 when I met him, and he was like the most assured 19-year-old I'd ever met. He kind of at least knew what he wanted to do. He wasn't necessarily like, oh, I'm going to be a record producer, produce all these records.
Right.
But he knew if he wanted to do something, he could do it. At that moment in time, he was as much a promoter. I mean, he would get shows, like get bands to do shows. And I think he did it all for the fact that, number one, he loved the music.
Yeah.
And the other thing, which was great to have when you're at that age, is like he's not afraid to fail. You know what I mean? He would just go. He would just go and do stuff. And I always say I never met somebody like him again until, and it would be about 8 years later when I actually ran into, like, started meeting and working with Lars Ulrich. And I was like, okay, this is another very assured person who knows what he wants to do and knows how he wants to see things, and just goes and gets them. And then and then doing the work that I did on Murder in the Front Row, I got, kind of a more complete picture of who Lars was back then when he was probably about 18 or 19.
Yeah.
And he was that guy, what I mean? That same type of dude who's like, I want to, here's how I see it. I'm going to go get this, and, whatever. I'm not afraid to fail, so I'm just going to do it.
It's awesome. It's inspiring meeting people like that, and it's crazy. These young dudes I see that like have accomplished so much, and you hear these stories and all this kind of stuff. Man, I feel like a fucking loser. I'm like, God damn, like
I was kind of feeling the same way.
Yeah. I'm like, man, I was a fucking pothead and like whatever, and like just wasted so much time.
Right. I don't know. It's like, but you found your way. You created all this. And it's like, we all arrive in life at some point. What I mean, and get here.
Yeah.
But so it was really interesting being Rick's roommate. Certainly, it was just for 1 year. We stayed friends. He lived in the dorm, and we remained friends. Then and after.
Yeah.
But it was, it was just this life of like parties and he would DJ parties and stuff. Rick didn't drink. It was like partying was not his thing in the sense of like smoking pot and drinking beer like everybody else in college.
Right.
It was much more about creating this situation where like music happens and like interesting things happen. He was very much about that.
Nice.
And very determined. He was not yet the spiritual guru guy that he became later, that he's sort of, I guess, more well known for now in the sense of what he does.
Yeah.
But he certainly kind of knew what he wanted to do. And the one thing he was absolutely on, and this is pretty out there for a guy in like a white suburban kid in 1982 to be so into like hip hop and rap and that culture, and unafraid to just sort of march right into the middle of it and just like, you know, make friends with whoever was doing it. It was, I think he rightly recognized it at that early point as being punk rock, but like African-American version of punk rock, because it was very do-it-yourself. The record companies weren't up on it yet, and you know, and it was sort of like, I guess, what punk in London might have been like in 1976 or something. And he just went towards it.
Yeah, it was starting a whole new it started a movement basically. It's crazy.
Correct. But I don't think he did. It wasn't like, I got to tell you, if you were thinking like, oh, I want to go make a lot of money in the music business, you wouldn't start there.
Right.
That would be like the place they'd say don't go. You know.
Right.
No, he just went for it, and I think, you know, his success happened with that, but.
Because he
nice.
loved it, which is great, and it was real. You know, it was authentic, which
very
is
natural.
Yeah, which is awesome.
That's always the best.
That's wild.
I mean, were you there? Were you there?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I
That's
didn't know
all
where
right,
I was
bro.
coming from.
I'm the voice. Nobody sees me. Were you there when the whole Def Jam thing started in the room and everything?
Yeah, that was the room. So it was like, it was. He showed, when I first came to the dorm, he showed me the first record that he produced, and he was very proud of it, as he should be. But it was a punk record. It was for his band called Hose, and it was, which was a very dirge-like punk record. If you know, and you guys probably know the band Flipper.
Yeah.
It was that type of thing. He liked Flipper a lot, so it was just that kind of music. And he shows me the record, and so this is a punk record. This is before anything else, but he shows me, like, he pulls it out of his sleeve and everything, and in the middle, it's got exactly the Def Jam logo, the same one that's now, the same one, you know, with the tone arm and the whole thing. And he was very, you know, he was already thinking of that, and he was probably still 2 years away from producing his first rap record.
Wow.
So that's kind of a guy who's like on a path of some kind, you know?
Yeah. Was he? Does he play music also?
Yeah, Rick was played guitar in this band, but he not a great guitar player. You know what I mean? Just very limited, and he'd play with a lot of, you know, he was like exciting to watch because he'd like throw himself into it, but not with a lot of like great skill or something like that. I think his feel for music is, you know, as I've watched him work in the years that I did, was very intuitive. You know what I mean? He knew what he liked, and he knew how to get the best performance out of people, and that's kind of a lot of what a producer has to do.
Yeah. Now, was that your kind of lead in to start getting to know like the Metallica guys and like kind of get to know all those West Coast?
Yeah, I mean the answer is yes. Eventually, you know, we're leaping a bunch of years, but it's you know, Rick was in college. I was friends with him for those years. Then I worked for him when he was now in Def Jam, and Def Jam was, you know, really moving along.
Right.
And then at a certain point, I don't know, maybe 1987, 88 or so, Rick Rubin parts ways with Russell Simmons, and he literally leaves behind Def Jam. He just leaves it and goes to the West Coast and forms Def American Recordings.
Okay.
And because his, you know, the thing he loved was the what was happening at that time in heavy metal and hard rock music and stuff. And so, of course, Slayer, very obviously.
Yeah.
And then just signs up, you know, a whole bunch of makes a bunch of amazing records, of which, you know, you got Danzig. I mean, take your pick. It's like even those Trouble records he made with the band Trouble.
Yeah, I remember Trouble.
Amazing records.
Yeah.
Wolfsbane.
Oh, he did System as well.
Yeah. Later he did System. Exactly. I mean, it's just, you know, it's just mind blowing the amount of stuff that was going on then. And under his label, he did not sign the Black Crowes, but I mean, they came in under the label and he allowed it to be produced. And I mean, you could at least say that the Black Crowes were not getting signed anywhere else. You know, George Drakoulias had tried elsewhere.
It gets me though, man, where it's like he's not a musician at all, but he just gets paid for advice. And his advice puts out some of these amazing albums, you know?
Yeah, it pushes them in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, he's done a lot for a lot of people, and you know, and whatever. Some people it doesn't. I think that technique doesn't work for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, where it works, you know, and that's like.
Oh, it's worked on some fucking Ultimate albums,
Well,
man.
there you go. I mean, you know.
What were you doing in those years? Like when I know you did the Beastie Boys, the first two Beastie Boys videos and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I co-directed Fight for Your Right to Party and No Sleep Till Brooklyn with my great co-director Rick Manello, and then we whatever, just doing music videos. I mean, I did music videos for some of the bands on Deaf American at that time. I was just, kind of banging around doing that stuff. So I did a video for Wolfsbane. I worked on Danzig things, but I never did a video for Danzig.
Right.
And, Trouble and some other things. Anyway, and at a certain point it led to, and thankfully again to Rick Rubin with his, a little bit of assistance from him, a meeting, a very fateful one as it turns out for me, with Metallica. And that was, they were at that time and that moment in time going in to record their next album. Nobody knew what it was or even what it was going to sound like or anything. It was just like, they'd completed the Injustice for All tour, and it was like Metallica's going into this studio to record, and they may want to film it. And do you want to have a conversation, meeting with them about it? I was like, yeah, sure, absolutely. I want to talk to them about it. And it was obviously a very fateful meeting. It was very early in the recording process. They were just in One-on-One Studios, which is a big studio in North Hollywood, and they were just getting drum sounds. It was just like.
Were you in the car with Lars when he was fucking running late and he was just like flying down the fucking freeway?
Yeah, that was me filming, taking my life in my hand.
Yeah.
You don't want to drive with Lars.
Yeah.
He was late for getting to the airport, I think, and he's late because he left with like 5 minutes to go. You know what I mean? He just wailed on it, and he had this Porsche. He drove like a lunatic. I'm not the only one who's had the hell ride experience. And obviously I got into the studio. I got filming eventually, and they were famous for being the band that didn't want to film anything, and all of a sudden I'm in there filming, and in a way, for history and everything, thankfully, because the album that they were working on, that it turned out to be, the Black Album, and so it was, obviously their biggest album.
Yeah.
They didn't know that at the time. It was just the next album, and it was great. I mean, it's just this, amazing experience that
many of drunken afternoons with my boys, bro, watching the year and a half in the life of Metallica, fucking just sitting and getting wasted and shit.
Yeah.
It's a fun watch. It's I've had people come up and quote things to me, about the epic little battles between Lars and James, and but I've also had a lot of people over the years say that, especially recording engineer people, say that like, wow, I got into recording, or I understood how a record was made on account of that.
You didn't really see that kind of behind the scenes back then.
Yeah,
that's right.
And Metallica was that band who, before One was their first video, and at first they were always like, we're never going to put a video out, and blah, blah, blah. That was that whole thing, and then to see what it kind of morphed into was kind of awesome. So.
It is, they by the time I ever met them, they'd made the one video, which is an amazing video, just amazing. And but on the other hand, you could say that like they had their success built like naturally. They built it by touring and getting bands. So if you just think about it on a cost basis, music videos cost a lot of money back then, especially they were hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if you're filling up arenas and you don't have to make those pieces of promotion, then maybe, it made sense. They, all of Master of Puppets was made and sold and not one music video. So there's something to that.
Yeah, I know that. It was funny though. The scene was different back then. It was a lot. Things were a lot different back then. Yeah. Trying to get access to things, and I think things felt really special when you had it too, when I remember, when you had certain cassette tapes and stuff like that, you couldn't, but yeah, it was a different time back then. Everything wasn't so accessible. So it's kind of awesome that they did it the way they did. It's wild.
Yeah, I think again, those times it's different from now, but there was sort of a thrill with discovering something new, some new band or some new song that turned you on, and then you going around to people that you knew and getting them into it, right? That's sort of a thing now. You know what I mean? I don't know how much it is now. I guess you could just like hit share and like email it to people and stuff, or text it or whatever.
Did you think at all in the moment? And that's a weird question. But did you think in the moment that you were a part of history?
It's something that was going to become like as monumental as in like. Do you see that going into it? Like, oh, this is going to be like a really big thing.
No, but I'll tell you when it happened. It's a good question. I just go in there. I'm filming the making of whatever this new album is, and at first you just kind of they're trying to get drum sounds and everything, and I'm on a probationary period, right? Which means I could get thrown out, like literally walked out any minute of any day. And I kind of knew when I was there for about 2 weeks, and they were as Jason Newsted would say, they're famous for hazing people, as we all know. And they they started just throwing shit at me and threatening me and no, it was like everything was like
just fucking around, but it's like
you and no, they threw stuff plenty. And when I picked out the camera, stuff would be coming my way, but they did all of that except throw me out. And if they wanted me out, I'd be out. You know what I mean? So I kind of, when I realized that, I was like, oh, okay, you're just going to get beat on a bit, but you're here, and you're filming, and you're coming back the next day, and you're still filming. Okay, you're one of the guys now, and then you just kind of fade into the woodwork. To your question, there was a point when I started, I'm filming, and Bob Rock, of course, very I think astutely, had them record all together in the room, in the big studio recording room. Yeah. They had not done that before, apparently. I didn't know that. I found that out. He would usually, Lars and James go in, they hash it out, and then the other guys come in and add their parts. He was like, no, you're going to play together in a band, and he put them in that circle, which for filming purposes was fantastic, but it was also, I think, the proof is on the record as well, that they're just, you vibe off the other musicians. So they start laying these songs down, and I, like anybody else, I'm just sitting there and I'm hearing these things come together, and what you're starting to hear is Sad But True and Enter Sandman and these amazing songs, and Wherever I May Roam, and it's exactly that thing. They play it a few times. It's like, okay, guys, come in and listen, and then he puts it up on the big speakers, and you're in the monitor room. And I would always go in for that because they'd play the song back, but the interesting part would be when the song would stop playing back, and then they'd talk about it. That's what I wanted to capture. Right. But I heard it playing back, and I'm like, these songs are amazing. And then as you see, they start putting the layers on them. Mm-hmm. I started to have a realization a few months in. I was like, oh, this is not just another record. This is like an epic record. This is like, it was really, I think, the song The Unforgiven, that with just the way it builds and has that big guitar solo in it. I just was like, this is like kind of, going to be one of those epic records that's like, it sounded to me like a Stairway to Heaven type of thing, the way it just built into this huge, crescendo of stuff. Yeah. And I was like, okay, this is going to be pretty amazing. Like, and then you kind of check, you're like, is it just me? Am I just hear so much that I hear this? But no, I was driving around LA listening to everything going on the radio in 1990 and 1991. And I was just like, this is really an amazing record. Wow. So I had kind of a sense then, right. And then it kind of met. You had at
least about 10 albums that dropped that year that were fucking crazy, and that was one of them. Yeah, it was a crazy.
It's a great point. It was. You're correct in that there was a lot of great material coming out, and you have the rise of grunge. You have Soundgarden's kind of putting out great stuff, and
Chili Peppers dropped something that year.
Yeah, that was that year. Yeah, that was during the making of the Black Album. So big time.
And they were on one of the last Lollapaloozas, I think. Mm-hmm. I don't know the last, but they were on one of Lollapalooza, which I thought it was weird having Metallica on a Lollapalooza, but whatever. I saw them up in Vermont. It was kind of wild.
Yeah, they did play that. There was a certain point they were trying to play, I guess, things outside of the norm. Yeah. You know what I
mean? They brought, they kind of brought metal to the masses. You know what I mean? Like it was, I remember now I was in high school when that dropped, and I remember now I got jocks going, Metallica to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
that's the only metal band everybody go, you listen to Metallica?
Yeah.
Like, okay. I
remember going to like house parties, and all of a sudden, a couple years before that, like I couldn't, not my music. If I go to house parties where I grew up, like I was not getting like my music on the fucking stereo. You know what I mean? But now all of a sudden Metallica's on there. It's like, all right, cool. Right.
I know. You put the metal on at those things and like clear the room. That's for clearing the room. Right. Yeah. Exactly. But Metallica was the acceptable metal, and certainly that album and forward from there, that it certainly became something that like, oh wow, it's like everybody could kind of get a
Were you thinking about the concept of Nothing Else Matters video while you were in there, like I'm going to use live footage from this and that, and like were you seeing it?
When I went in, Lars's kind of just guide to me as much as it was just film everything. You know what I mean? He just was, you know, he didn't know what. He just knew that he wanted it documented, and he felt like he obviously must have had some suspicion that something was changing. But I had no thought about what this would be for a music video. It was just like, I was actually just filming to try to tell a story. I was really much more thinking about the story, like that somebody watching this that I could show them the process. My goal was that if I could show process, then people outside, I mean, you know, you put this thing together in a documentary, you're already going to have the Metallica fans. They're already going to watch this thing. Yeah. I wanted other people to watch it as well, like people that were not fans but are interested in process and want to see how it's done. To me, I always thought of it when I saw, remember that show with the like Orange County choppers, right?
Yeah.
All right, how many people ride a chopper? Not really that many.
Yeah.
But tons of people watch the show because it was interesting to see how they made something.
Yeah.
People watch anything that you show how they make it. That's kind of my thought about it. So the Nothing Else Matters music video happened months later. The band is now going out on tour, and I made a concert film for it. The Black Album tour did not have an opening act. It was just they would come out and play, and they knew they had a lot more new fans and stuff, people that had not necessarily followed them up through the previous 4 albums. So they asked me to make like a little film, like a 15-minute film that was like show a little of the history, show a bit of the making of the new album. And that's where we first used the footage, and you could see that they were doing this. And then that would go, and then it suddenly, you know, the lights would like go down, and the stage, like the lighting rig rose up, and they would open with Enter Sandman at that time. So it was like a great opening. So that was the first use of the footage. Then they make the music video for Enter Sandman. They had that when the album like was coming out. Then they made The Unforgiven, another great music video, both of those. That's coming out. Third one off the album is going to be Nothing Else Matters, and that's the one they were like kind of concerned about because of it's they wouldn't call it a ballad, but you know what I mean.
That was a ballad, dude.
Yeah.
Just admit it. That was a ballad. It was a badass song, but it was a ballad.
Yeah.
Right. But what they didn't want to do was a concept music video where it would like stress, let's say, a love song type of vibe. You know what I mean? They didn't want it to be like that because they were kind of afraid still, you know, of what that would, you know, that would maybe put a too much of a dent in the armor, you know, of Metallica, I guess. So they asked me if I could, you know, do I think I have footage that I could cut this together and kind of, it would then be about the making of the song and not so much about the content of the lyric quality.
A lot of videos back then with the ballads. I remember, was it Testament? Where you had the love interest in the pool hall or something like that, you know, and you had the chick walking around. It's typical.
Yeah, that's what they didn't want to do was a concept music video that would do that. Plus, they had all this footage. You know what I mean? It was you know, a good decision. And Lars had said if that didn't work, they were going to have to go out and do a concept video, and a concept video meant spending $200,000. You know, also. So it was like, you know, because it would have to be big with a big director and a, you know, movie-like quality to it and everything. Yeah. So they were just like, let's see if this works. So so they didn't give me the $200,000. I can tell you that. we just they gave me about 2 weeks in an edit room. We're like, you better get it ready. And but it was really nice because of this memory that I always have, which is that you know, they were on tour like all over the world, and from someplace out all over the world, there was a phone call on my, at that time, an answering machine. You kids, you don't understand what this thing was with a little tape in it, which I should have saved. Yeah. And it was like all of a sudden, like you know, from wherever he was on Earth, Lars called in and like left this message, and it was like, woohoo, we did it, we love it, because I would send tapes to them, you know, in whatever far-flung place they were at. Right. And he watched it at whatever time, and it was nice of him to leave that message. It was nice that I got it. And whatever, 3 months later, it's running on MTV, and did big numbers.
They did like a 3-4 year run on that, and just on that album alone, I think.
Yeah, 3 years on the Black Album tour. I just know when I was talking to Jason Newsted a couple of years ago, he said he celebrated 3 birthdays on that tour.
Wow!
So that's how long it went for him. You know, that's how he looked at it.
Wow. Yeah. What's he doing now? Is he still? He's making
he's
music?
Great. Yeah. No, he I mean, at whatever pace he feels, but he's living like kind of in Florida, and he also makes art. He's a painter and creator of art, and he kind of heard his music a couple of years ago, and he's doing great. I mean, I think he's just doing it at the
He's living off that Black album, bro.
Yeah,
he's living off the Black album.
Yeah,
it's certainly nice when you get those checks.
yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure.
He's a good guy. Jason welcomed me into the studio and was very friendly. Was not throwing things at me. And, was the one guy probably wasn't.
Yeah.
And but it was always really nice. I always strive to try to. Get him a bunch of FaceTime because it's very easy for it to become a Lars and James thing, and I always wanted to give some time to Jason, who is a very good guy.
Yeah, Kirk doesn't get a lot of FaceTime. I know a lot either. He's always kind of off in the background. There was a clip on like that Some Kind of Monster.
Yeah.
Which I didn't like, that Some Kind of Monster.
That was great, man. What are you, crazy?
It was depressing, man.
Man.
It was depressing.
That's my feel.
It was a hard watch. I'm sure you know the guys. You know what I mean?
That's why I don't like to say like it was good filmmaking. Those guys are good filmmakers, but I've always said I found it hard to watch because I know them, and I only ever watched it twice.
I mean, it showed them as like, you're not demigods, you're just human. It brought them more to the people.
Yeah, but I'm still going through their struggles and all that kind of shit. Like, I mean, it was a hard one. I watched it once. I was like, I don't need to watch that.
I own it,
I was
bro.
like, yeah,
I love that documentary.
Well, I'll just say that, like, I mean, okay, all of us
I own
here,
yours on VHS, so that's how old I go back.
Yes, you go back. I love that. I love that. 2 VHSs, which is what it came in.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we all know people who are either in recovery, been through recovery, whatever. Yeah. We all know that. And all I can say is doing it is hard enough. Doing it on camera, I don't even know anybody who needs that. You know? So I found it difficult, for myself anyway.
Yeah, I can imagine that was fucking wild. Yeah. So fast forward a little bit. How did you get into that Murder in the Front Row, man? That amazing, amazing documentary.
That was another good one, bro. Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
I loved it.
When I heard you did, I was like, he did that? Holy shit! I was like, I fucking love that. It was so good, man. How did that come about?
Okay, it came about actually again through the Metallica world and everything. There's a guy named Brian Liu who is. One of those guys who were the very early fans in the San Francisco Bay Area when Metallica, who had already been playing around LA for, I don't know, a year or whatever, came up the coast to San Francisco. Of course, very famously, Metallica, wasn't getting ahead very far in Los Angeles. They come up the coast to San Francisco, not thinking anything of it, and the San Francisco audience got what they were doing and was going nuts for them. So they kept coming up to San Francisco, and then ultimately they, obviously what's to me the most telling thing is they then add to their band 2 dyed-in-the-wool San Francisco East Bay guys, which is, Kirk Hammett and Cliff Burton. Mm-hmm. And so I knew Brian Liu, who was one of those guys who was at like those very first shows and also, kind of documented it a bit. And then with another guy there, Harold Oyman. And many years ago, they created, I don't know if it came out in 2012 or whatever, they made a book. And this book is called Murder in the Front Row, taken from an Exodus song. Yep. And they, and the book is mainly pictures, although there's a bunch of writing in it too. Our friend Alex Skolnick, is one of the guys who writes like a few pages in there. And basically it was, I got to know Brian through Metallica. And I don't know, for whatever reason, we just became friendly and stayed friends. And he gave me this book, and this book stayed on my nightstand for several years. I loved it. I loved the book. I love the pictures in the book because the photographs are so visceral. They're so real. You can almost feel the sweat coming off them. And it's of the shows and the early shows and the bands and not just Metallica, Exodus. It's kind of the whole thing going down there in San Francisco. And I just, I fell in love with the book, and I just kept it there. But, whatever, living life, doing stuff, and just knowing in my mind that would make the basis of an excellent documentary, because the photographs tell a story, but I could tell there was a larger story there, kind of to be told. A few years go by, And I call up Brian, and I'm like, yeah, I feel like I can do this. That was probably 2016.
Okay.
And I'm like, I think I can get this together and do it. And he was like very adamant, like, let's meet and talk about it. And he wanted to make sure that the story was very close to him and Harold. Wanted to tell it right. And, here I am, this Brooklyn-based filmmaker, right? You know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm going to tell your story right.
Did you know Brian previously?
Yes, but a bit. We were not close friends,
Right.
not then anyway. We'd met at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame when Metallica was inducted, and they invited out very, very kindly. Nobody else has done this. All these people from their past, and had this big party basically the night before, and then the next day they get inducted, and all these people are there. So they invited people from Europe. I mean, people would really, at some point, it had something to do with their moving up in the world. So we met there, stayed friendly. When the book came out, he gave me the book. I optioned the book, and then I just set about doing interviews. And I was, Metallica were very clear with me. They were like, well, if you get a whole bunch of other people, then we'll sit for you, but we're not going to be like the first people to sit. And I was like, great, that's fine, because I don't want you to be the first people. I wanted to interview a lot of people. Yeah. And I started with the fans, because to me, the story starts in San Francisco with these fans, because if you go back to a certain point in time, that very early point, James Hetfield's not famous. He's just another 18-year-old kid playing music to these 18-year-old kids, and they're all just vibing on it. And that was the most interesting thing to me, was that he was not yet the guitar god. He was not yet, this heavy metal guy that he is. And I said, if I could find a way in there, that I have a really interesting story that also I think hadn't really been told in that way before. Mm-hmm. So just started interviewing, and like word got around in the community that we were telling the story right, that we were doing it justice, that we were like telling it the proper way, and nothing exploitative. I was not interested in kind of drugs and all that stuff. I was just interested in tell me about the music. And when you come at it with that approach, it was good. So we kind of got a lot of the people who had been the early fans at that time, very important people to document. Ron Quintana comes to mind, who was the guy who coined the name Metallica, and just not a musician, but a guy who was there at the time and wrote a very famous fanzine. I love all the fanzine writers. I love guys like that who were so passionate that they were just writing and stapling it together and selling them out of their house and stuff.
Fanzines were great back in the day. Finding new bands, going to shows.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, you remember that. So
yeah.
It's and the other thing that we kind of really went to document was the tape trading network, which was so important. You talk about it. You know that.
Yeah. No, tape trading, it was a lot of in the back of fanzines on magazines and stuff like that. You would connect with people and you would trade tapes, back in the day. And it was wild. I was fucking lazy. So one of my best friends, Ron, who's probably listening, I'd say he's listening up there. Ron, I know, did a lot of stuff like that, and he turned me on to so much music like that. But but it did back then. You didn't just click something to send it. You would make people cassette tapes and things like that, which was great.
Right. And in those snail mail packages that were sent, people would put photos. They'd put maybe a T-shirt or something. They were trading stuff. It was fascinating. This kind of world existed. I was just in Munich, and I saw Metallica play in Munich a few weeks ago, and there was a few of these very early fans, but the European ones there. There was Alex Gernandt, who was in Munich. There was Andre Verhuizen, who is from Artshock magazine, so he's from Netherlands, and these guys knew each other back then. They're trading, stuff back then, and here it is 40 years later, but that's how that connected them, and they were trading with the guys in San Francisco 40 years ago. So it was really quite a network, and based on that, that's how bands like Metallica got successful. That's how European fans would know an American act coming over there without any kind of promotion from a record company or anything else. It was a pretty amazing thing, really. And suddenly, a room of 300 people could be filled and packed. So
we could say, and Lars, if you listen to this, bro, it's a fucking joke, but that was the early Napster.
In a way, it was.
In a way, that was the early Napster.
Yeah. Well, although what they would point out to you, that the tape traders, is they didn't trade they would not tape albums. They would tape live shows. They would
Okay.
trade live shows. They were very specific because they said you wanted to own the album and not give it away. And the reason you wanted to own it is because it made you a member of the club. You know what I mean? You were that. So they were very specific with me about that. So anyway, I document all this stuff, and so that's the kind of the background of it. That's what helped these bands. So right away, guys we started to get some of the band people started stepping up, and first up was Gary Holt, the amazing Gary Holt of Exodus and Slayer. He wanted to do it. The other Slayer guys came in, and sort of it was just, it kind of rippled down that we were telling the story right, and like we got all these great folks that were in.
Did Dave give you a hard time?
Lombardo?
No, Mustaine.
Mustaine. Okay. I just thought Lombardo because we were talking
He's a
about
nice
Slayer.
guy.
Lombardo was very cool. Very, very cool, and he didn't. Again, we were staying. I was staying in the territory where like Slayer were all good at that time. You know what I mean? I wasn't asking about later issues and stuff that might have happened. Mustaine was a, certainly a challenging interview. He's great. I mean, Mustaine is really amazing, and I was very clear with the management. I said, I'm not here to talk about. I really actually I thought it had been done over so much. I mean, him leaving Metallica, the whole thing with that.
Oh, that's every question, every interview.
Yeah, and it's like right. So what am I going to add to that? Nothing. And it's really, to me, the least interesting thing about it is that. What is fascinating to me is what he did after that.
100%.
Right? I mean,
100%.
that guy's amazing, because that easily could have been like the side story of side stories,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
He
yeah,
goes back to L.A. and it's like, oh yeah, he's this guy who once played in Metallica, right?
Yeah.
And instead, look what he does. So I decided to follow that thread, and the great David Evelson gave me a great interview, and so did Dave Mustaine, and just I guess I had to like make clear to Dave Mustaine that I'm not here. I'm not a journalist, first of all, so I'm not here to like ask lazy questions which are about either drugs or getting thrown out of Metallica or any nonsense like that.
He's technically the Godfather. He taught King, he taught Hetfield. He's going around teaching everybody, the licks.
Yeah.
And that's a great point, and that's what I want to talk to him about. And I brought up, because it's documented in the book, when Mustaine brought the early version of Megadeth to the Bay Area, which is where he took it almost immediately. I mean, he played a few shows around LA, but like he knew where he wanted to take that thing because he'd already experienced it. And he gets up there very early in Megadeth's career. I think they'd only played a few shows. And who's he got playing with him? Because he didn't have another guitar player at that time. He's got Kerry King.
Yeah.
And it's documented in the footage. So I was just like, okay, amazing. And when I asked Kerry about that, he was like, oh yeah, no, he was like, I was happy to play for him. So, later on in life, these guys have like, there's been like sniping and all kinds of stuff, whatever. I mean, they're guys and they say stuff, and it's like, and then the press chases them down. You hear what he just said. Now, what are you going to say about that? And I think they bait a lot of this stuff.
They love drama.
Get a story.
It's nonsense. Yeah, exactly. But in the end run, we who know, I mean, these guys are just players. They're just amazing players. They invented a form of music, and they are the guys we're talking about Kerry King or Dave Mustaine. I mean, those guys are the architects of that. Yeah. They are absolutely the architects of that, and that's the angle I approach them on. I think that's why when you refer to the movie, it's like it's got a certain integrity to it that I wanted to come out. You know what I mean? I did not want it to be anything like that, and I just kind of stayed with that. And there was one other thing that I discovered making the film, which was this sort of very hard form of music, but there's actually a lot of great people. Now it's like this. The movie has this like very warm beating heart. You know what I mean? It's like a very.
You would think that they'd be fucking evil motherfuckers, but when in your documentary, it's regular nice guys.
I mean, this is what's awesome about the scene, the metal scene, though. You know what I mean? It's of course there's drama wherever you go, but this, I don't know, man. It's I compare like. When you walk down the street and you see another dude in like a metal shirt, you still like kind of give the nod. You know what I mean? If you
always,
always, right?
Always.
And if it's a poser if they don't. You know what I mean? Right. You know what I mean? I've seen like girls wearing like Iron Maiden shirts and like you're like, and then you get nothing. It's like,
right. Exactly.
Oh man. That's cool. And you did kind of touch on some of the East Coast guys too, the Anthrax. Sure. I mean,
God, they don't get enough love.
Yeah,
no,
they don't get enough love, Anthrax, man.
Yeah,
I was really happy to interview Charlie Benanti for the movie, and he was just great. And Yeah, I thought Charlie's a really interesting guy, you know what I mean? And I felt like he really like expressed where the East Coast was. Look, on a different day, I could do a whole documentary, right? And it's like you could go Anthrax and Overkill and all this other, you know what I mean? You could just like dig that.
Yeah.
And I just, I could only use it to kind of reflect back to what was happening on the West Coast because, you have an hour and a half and you can tell your story. And there's such a rich story in the Bay Area that I've said that like it could do like 3 more documentaries. Like there could be another one that starts with like at just that next level where like Testament gets going and everything else, and take that level, and go there. But it just needs more work, and I think there's certainly more work to be done there.
Yeah, I mean each band has their own story. Exodus has a whole past, and Testament, like all of them, they all have crazy stories.
Yeah, I had to stop my story. I literally had enough story when I took it up to the basically the death of Cliff Burton, the untimely death, and then just to kind of tail end it, we included, like we spoke about the death of Paul Bailoff, but it's like, who died sometime later than Cliff, but it was like, that was it. I mean, that's all the time I had for story. I didn't even have time to get into where Bailoff's out of Exodus and Zetro shows up, you know what I mean? It's like, that's a whole nother
part
story.
2, bro.
Yeah,
like part 2,
part
man.
2, right? Exactly. So
What was that? The Fall of Western Civilization. I mean, they made 3 of those. I think.
3, yeah. They could keep making them.
Yeah, they could.
There's tons.
Yeah, I mean the second one was the best one, but
It's beyond the best one.
Yeah.
It's the greatest thing.
Yes, it is.
The greatest thing. Oh my God.
yeah,
So much fun.
hell yeah.
Yeah.
Man, you do so much, and then you do stuff with like Lewis Black. I've seen you done.
Yeah.
Did you do something with him, right?
Yeah, many things. I've been fortunate to work with Lewis a few times, did some comedy specials. My wife worked in the comedy business, so when I met her, she worked for Caroline's and moved on working, booking this club called Comics. She also booked Bonnaroo, brought the whole comedy tent and angle, all the comedy that they did there for 14 years, she booked. And so I was fortunate to just, kind of mix in with this gang of comics who were just crazy and really fun.
Yeah.
And the thing, the rock stars all want to be comics, the comics all want to be rock
Yeah,
stars.
yeah.
So the rock stars thing are they're funny, but they're not usually as intentionally funny as they're just funny because they're funny. But,
Right.
but the comedians are intentionally funny and they're great, but they want to be rock stars. And so Lewis was just an amazing person. We got to be friends, and just an amazing, thoughtful, interesting personality. Not at all like the guy he is on stage is not that angry lunatic off stage, but he. The insights, the whole thing that he does. And so I was fortunate again. I was, to do some live work with him and film some live performances. We did a movie in 2009 called Stark Raving Black, which came out, played in movie theaters also, and then was on Epic's channel. And also we did a documentary at the same time called Basic Black, which was really cool to capture like his past history. And, here was a guy who was already at that point 60 years old. And like, I really wanted to know, like, what makes him tick? How did he get into this? And of course, he started as a playwright. He had not exactly the idea to get into comedy, but that's, he could just do it. He would get up and he had that gift where he was funny.
Yeah.
He had that thing.
The stand-up comedians, man, they got balls, especially the ones back in the day. Even the ones now. I mean, we've had some comedy shows over here, and there's 5 people in the back room, and they got to get up there and still be on and do their thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Right.
some of them. I listen to old stories of like Bill Burr and all those guys used to do Chinese restaurants and fucking bowling alleys and open up for musicians sometimes. Like some bands would have like comedians open up for them sometimes too.
Sure, yeah.
Did you Anthony Jeselnik too? Did you do?
Yep, I did one thing with him. Don't have as much like a friendship with him or anything. Right. I was hard on, good strong comic, and he wanted to shoot at the Fillmore in San Francisco, and my producer Jack Ulick, who's produced like all this Metallica stuff, had relationship there, so we went and we shot that for Anthony, but not not like buds or anything like that.
Right,
Lewis,
right.
like I saw him a month or so ago, and really just great guy and great to see him. Yeah, it's amazing to watch like comics go out there. You know what I mean? They just, I mean, to me, it's the most naked of all art forms.
100%.
It's like you go out there, and if it doesn't work, it does not work. You know what I mean? Like a band, you can play through it, but Jesus, you know?
Yeah.
Did you go get hooked up with Jim Brewer through Metallica, or was this, or you just like fans just meeting each other like, oh, let's work together?
Well, it's a funny thing. It was like he was playing at when my wife Rochelle was booking Rocky. She's on the business as Rocky, booking Caroline's at the time. She was booking a lot of acts there, and he was booked and whatever. He was still on Saturday Night Live at that time, and she's like, you got to come meet Jim, because everybody, you know, he wears his love of metal and Metallica on his sleeve. He loves like Judas Priest. He loves, you know, all that stuff. Yeah. And whatever, you know, you put us in a room together, and we got to be friends pretty fast and everything. And then come to meet like Metallica and everything, and they took a shine to him and everything. So yeah, he got to be friendly with them, and it was fun. I wound up doing a comedy special with Jim Brewer as well, and a lot of fun with that guy.
So did he get into Metallica? Like, okay, then did you introduce him to Metallica, or he already knew them? Like, or you both knew them, and you're like two ships, you know, coming in. And
I think I didn't introduce him, but I mean, he certainly was on a path to meeting them. You know, he's on Saturday Night Live.
Because he's opened up for them as a comic, right?
Yeah. I mean,
that to me is weird. Like, you know, comedy open up for metal. I'm like, okay, you know, it's like kind of weird, but it worked.
It worked.
It's been done. I mean, it's been at that level. It's kind of hard. You know what I mean? But I mean, because you're playing an arena. But it's like I've seen it before. I mean, I know other people like you know, comedians. Bill Burr is a good example.
Yeah.
And he I mean, he just would open the show. It's a little different thing, I guess, you know, than having an opening band. But maybe it's kind of a good different thing, because then the opening band's not at all compared to what's coming out. You know.
Yeah, I think it's a good. I don't know. Depending on the comedian, I've seen it. I've seen it work.
Bill Burr likes metal too.
Yeah, Bill Burr
does.
a metal guy,
I
too.
know.
He loves Meshuggah.
Yeah,
I know
he's
he's
big.
a Meshuggah fan.
Yeah, he's a drummer, so he loves it. Yeah.
I've been watching that Dark Side of Comedy. Have you seen any of that? It's
I've heard of it. I've not seen it.
Yeah, it was a document. It's like a docuseries on I think it was on Hulu or whatever. And but it's you know, you're seeing like the rise and fall of like Andrew Dice Clay and Richard Pryor, and you know what I mean. Like it's wild. Like you said, they want to be rock stars. Andrew Dice Clay so wanted to be a fucking rock star, you know. So and he was.
I mean, in a way, yeah. You know what I mean. He certainly achieved that. I was at the Garden, of course. Rick Rubin producing him at one time. Back then, and I was at
producing Dice.
Yeah, he did that.
Yeah, these very early when Dice would like really hit his stride.
Okay.
Early 1988, 89, something like this. He produced some of those comedy records, and I was there. Yeah, at a Garden show that was like a really big show and everything. You know, he certainly, you know, Dice was able to handle it and like play big like that, you know, at that time, and you know, amazing. Just they want to be rock stars, and on a certain occasion they can. I mean, Bill Burr himself plays Madison Square Garden, you know. It's a pretty amazing thing.
Yeah.
Great younger comic that opens for Bill is Dean Del Rey, who also has a podcast and just a great comic. Definitely was a player in the San Francisco scene, but kind of switched to comedy. And also, somebody who's just very strong, but with like heavy metal roots and stuff. Yeah.
Nice.
So when do you know that, or when did you know that you made it? Is it based on, because you got a couple of awards, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's nice.
But is it the awards that you get, or the success of the things that you've captured?
I think the latter. I think it's the success of the things. It's like, you know, here's the thing. I don't know really that much about awards, because I never really thought about stuff like that as much. It's like that's not exactly the recognition. The recognition is much more when people see your work, right? And it's like, I feel like again, when you're doing things like this, when you're doing the Beastie Boys thing, the only thing you're thinking about at that moment is like, Jesus Christ, we've got like very little money, we've got no time, and we've got to get this thing shot. Right. That's it. That's all that's going through your head. Certainly happy when it goes out there and it becomes successful, and that's great. But you got to remember, a few years after it, the Beastie Boys and that music were thought of as like, oh, that'll be fun. That's like a one-hit wonder. We'll remember that in a few years as like kind of a funny thing. I always feel the Beastie Boys are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because of what they did after that. Everything they did after that is what really got them there. It's nice that they did Fight for Your Right, but it's like, it's really when they got to making their own music their own way and being their own producers and everything and directors. that they became that. But I feel like the success is like, it's when you suddenly realize that like what you did lasts a while, and you don't know that for a long time. You certainly don't know when you're making it. And even when I was filming the Black Album, I was like, this stuff's great, and I want to film this stuff. But I mean, you don't know where that's going to go years later. And you know, for a while, it's just something else that's out there because the band is still going forward. Like a lot of things, given enough time, it becomes, you know, that's when things become like, oh my God, that's epic, or oh my God, that's whatever. But and that's actually when I feel really good about it, is when you kind of look back and you go, oh wow, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, Lars put this up, so I didn't put it up, but like at some point a few years ago, the music video for Nothing Else Matters hit 1 billion views. So Lars, being Lars, like put something up on his Instagram about that with like mind blown and all
billion?
that. 1 billion, 1 billion views, yeah. So it's like, and it's far beyond like all, you know, you think, however great you think Enter Sandman is, it's not there. You know what I mean? It's just that song because I guess it's the most accessible song to the most amount of people. And yeah, I was like, holy cow. You know what I mean? Probably more people have seen that. The Beastie Boys is not even at that.
It's like a third of the planet.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, right? And it's just like, so you kind of figure, okay, you know, you did this work, and then, like, people liked it, you know what I
He
mean?
did knock on the door and be like, hey, was that 200 G's, bro?
Yeah. Saved you that money, man. Yeah, I wish. No, it's nice. They've been so good to me, and look, they keep me around. I mean, I'm still working on something for them, so it's been a fabulous relationship, not to be taken lightly, and something that, like, you know, you're lucky if you do a few things with somebody. You know what I mean? I've been fortunate, and I've always been, you know, very thankful. Whatever somebody gives me, I work.
You're the Bob Rock of video, bro.
Exactly. Bob Rock's quite amazing in his own. We ran into each other last year at the in the mosh pit at SoFi Stadium at the Los Angeles shows, and it was nice to, after many years, seeing him again. And great producer, nothing but respect for him.
Nice. So now you just finished a horror movie, right?
Yeah.
What got you into wanting to do that? I mean, you're a horror fan, and just were like, "Fuck it, I want to do a fucking horror movie."
Yeah, I mean, you know, here's the thing: if you're gonna, first of all, if you're a metal fan, you're practically, you know, adjacent. You know what I mean? You're right there. You're on the edge. I mean, I'm not sure that I even know of a metal fan that's like, nope, hate horror. You know what I mean? It's like, who the hell would that be?
Yeah.
No, I mean, you know, we certainly like horror and everything. I wanted to make a film. I wanted to pull everything together myself. Best type of film to do for that is horror. It's the most accessible genre because basically the first part of the conversation is like you said a horror film, but notably you're not asking me, oh, who's in it? Because it really doesn't matter who's in it. The star is the genre. If you want to go put like star actors in there, that's fine. You can go do that. But as any horror fan knows, that's not why they're going to see the movie.
Yeah.
And almost like if there's a star in it, that almost gives away like, oh, they survived the thing, or they're going to be like a big part in this, so they get to live almost to the end or whatever. We don't have any of that.
Yeah.
We just have really good actors, but it's like they're not known. And so it kind of lends itself to this like, who's going to make it out, you know, kind of idea, because anybody could die at that point. Yeah.
So looks like a good one, though, man. Traction Park Massacre?
Yep. Yeah.
Looks like pretty fucking good.
Yeah, it's fun. So I don't, you know, if anybody hears from the East Coast or people watching this, it's like there was a park called Action Park.
I remember that. Yeah.
It was notorious, and it was it got more famous a few years ago when, like, thankfully somebody did a documentary on it that was really good called Class Action Park.
Yeah.
But me and my friends, being guys that grew up in New York, you know, we used to see the ads all the time, and like when we were able to drive, we like got on it and got out there.
You survived?
We survived. But I went out with 3 other friends. So it was the 4 of us went out there. We all got hurt on the rides. We on different things. We definitely, each of us got hurt and in different ways.
You actually heard Joey Diaz talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
Class Action Park.
Yeah. It's like we got, you know, so I mean, and then it was just like something we would joke about over the years. I mean, remember that time we went to, you know, Action Park? Oh, yeah, you know, and he went off this way and fell and whatever. It was just like, it was real.
Yeah.
Didn't think much more about it. That documentary came out, and we're like, oh, cool. You know, I mean, now everybody knows what we were talking about, you know what I mean, for years. Yeah. That was still cool. And then just we came up with this idea. It's me and my best friend, Douglas DeMonda, and we were making films like when we were kids, like making Super 8 films and stuff. And just like that would be a really cool setting for some kind of horror movie. But what happened there? Well, we don't want it to be like an intact park. It has to be something else, like that burned down or something. You know what I mean? Like that's dilapidated, and then like what's going on there? There's killers there. Well, why are they there and stuff? So we kind of, first of all, it's based on Action Park, but it's not there. It's actually takes place in the South.
Oh, Jersey people will know though.
Yeah, no, everybody will
Jersey
know.
people.
Yeah, no. But I'm just saying it's not shot in Jersey to try and be Action Park. It's really not, because we took that as like a jumping off point, and then just, you know, kind of gave ourselves creative license to do whatever we want. It was just, we took it for what it was. It's an unregulated park someplace that got out of hand, you know what I mean? And of course, somebody gets killed there, and then, you know, that starts the chain of events that leads to the what the basis of the horror movie is, you know?
Hell yeah. Has it gotten easier throughout the years, you know, making stuff like this with, I guess, with all the digital aids
Yes.
and all that kind of stuff?
In that way, certainly from film, it's gotten easier. I mean, the cameras now, the digital cameras are so amazing, and they let you shoot in a way that is much quicker than what you could do, you know, slating up and doing everything in a way with film. Film's just very expensive. The other thing is you can see it back straight away, so you know if you got something. You know what I mean? If you have to shoot it again or move on, and of course, if you're making low-budget filmmaking, the thing is always to move on. You know, keep going, just keep pushing through.
Yeah. I mean, that must have been fun as hell to make. How long did it take you?
So we shot in Georgia, which is very conducive to that. I just figured, let's go to a place where they've been making Walking Deads for like 15 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And you'll certainly find people, and we did, who you know how to do their gore makeup really well. And you know, we shot in 15 shooting days, but it's like, you know, a lot of, obviously.
Did they have like a park down there, like an empty theme
No,
park?
that was, well, it's a good question. Part of the idea of the movie is that most of the park's been destroyed. This happened, the events that destroyed it happened 15 years ago.
Okay.
So it actually allowed us to like just take the woods, which were great, and then put some things in them and make it look really dilapidated. And that was the way we kind of did the park, you know. And if
it's pretty good. You got to use your imagination and shit, you know.
Yeah, we still built some of the rides and things, but you know, it's kind of cool when you make stuff look overgrown and like it looks creepier. You know? It's scary. Yeah.
Fucking awesome, man.
Cool.
When is that coming out?
Hopefully, you know, I don't know about this year because, you know, we're just working on making it, but it'll be like, you know, certainly a 2025 type of thing. I mean, as soon as we can get it together, we're certainly doing it. We're working on it. Yeah.
Who else are you involved with the movie with? Did you hire writers for it? Did you basically did all yourself?
Yeah. Me and my best friend wrote it. We figured it out, and like we're like just like, you know, we would like we've always done in life. It's like you must have like a best friend you've watched movies with, right? Yeah. So you watch all these movies and you're just like, oh man, but what if they did this? You know?
Yeah.
That's kind of what we were like. We're like, you know, each of us like, you know, jazzing each other up to like do something else crazier and stuff. And then, you know, kind of then you take it down to this bunch of crazy dudes down in Georgia, and they're like, oh yeah, we could film that. Oh yeah, we could blow that up. That's no problem. They're totally, you know, it's like we met these guys and they were like, they had this, you know, they have their like, you know, warehouse where they build things for special effects, and they'll test things. They would send us tests of like, and you just see like a parking lot, and then something detonates in the middle of the parking lot and like blows up. And I'm just like, this is like the greatest job. What the hell did I go to college for? Because this is like, this is the greatest job ever. They just show up to work and get to blow shit up. I'm like, that's awesome, you know?
That's fucking great.
Yeah. That was fun. So yeah, it's a nice bunch of people to work with, and very can-do attitude, which you need on a low-budget film, and just, you know, so you make a good concept and a fun concept, good actors, and you know, away you go. You know, you try to make it work. Yeah.
Is that so? This is your first full-length film?
Yeah, I had done something a bunch of years ago, but I think this is like a real a good first effort. You know what I mean? And it'll be about 85 minutes long, and you know, it's fun. It's I think it's a really strong concept, and there's some great elements in it, and excellent kills, amazing kills. Nice. So, and very creative, and in line with, like, if I tell you that the idea is Traction Park Massacre, you're thinking, okay, I want to see people get massacred in the Traction Park. Well, that's what's going to happen.
Awesome.
So,
awesome.
You know, we deliver on that idea.
And would you say 85 minutes?
Yeah.
85. That's perfect too.
Perfect.
Man, you know, some of these movies, like like 2.5 hours long, or even 2 hours is too much. You know what I
Nah,
mean?
too much.
Sometimes hour and a half, good. You know.
I want people, very consciously, Murder in the Front Row was 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And with good reason. I've said it should play fast like the music and let people come back wanting more,
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
And the same thing with this. It was, interestingly, on Murder in the Front Row, if you go to the DVD, and then we released some of these online as well, we had so much material from these interviews that I didn't want to leave it on the cutting room floor. So we cut segments together, just little episodic segments, 5 minutes maybe, and about a subject, one subject. Let's say, what was because I would start off, I was asking people like, what was like the first concert you saw, and you get all these responses. So we made that like a little segment. We put out all these segments, so we had like all this extra footage. That question was a really good one. Like,
Yeah.
First, it was like, people said a lot of different things. It was like this and that, but like we were able to edit one sequence. The other was a kiss, 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 kiss. Everybody had gone to kiss. You know what I mean? That was including myself.
Yeah.
But
I was gonna say, what was your first?
that was Kiss.
No,
Yeah,
so-
1976, the Rock and Roll Over tour.
All right. Did you go see the last shows up?
I
they had
did.
over there? Yeah,
I
me
was at
too.
the very last show.
Yeah, me too, me
I had
too.
to like
Man,
round it out.
You guys went to go see Scab Kiss, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just like,
I fucking loved it.
say what you
I
want,
loved it.
but I was like, I was in heaven. You know what
I
mean?
was too, man. I got goosebumps thinking about it. I fucking loved it. I had the best time. I felt like a kid again. It was
Oh
awesome.
my God! I just, what's better, the songs or Paul talking in between the songs? I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's all great. And he's 70-something years old. He's still flying across the stadium.
Yeah.
I'm like, good for you, man.
Yeah, let him do it. It's
Yeah.
awesome. I mean, whatever. It's crazy, but you got to do it. So yeah, it was fun taking that footage and making. So there really is sort of a part 2 of Murder in the Front Row. It's the 90 minutes of video extras that we put out there too. So
Nice.
it's just having them talking about stuff. It was interesting, like seeing what people had to say about things. Did a whole thing about Ruthie's Inn, a whole thing about a lot of different subjects, because I was just like, we got
got it.
5 or 10 people talking about it. Let's just put it together.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Cool. What's your next project you're gonna do?
Let's see. I'm finishing up the movie. Will take its time to finish up.
Right.
I'm writing a book of what we started talking about, which is that early times of Def Jam and Beasties and everything, just to kind of document this and get all this down and everything, and how we made the music video. Like really do an in-depth dive into that.
Right.
And let's see. Whatever the odd music video comes along. I mean, I just like doing stuff, but I also live life, and we have a band too that
Yeah.
we play at this wonderful club of yours.
Yeah, Das Moose. I love it when you guys play, man. It's a good crowd. You guys come in early. You guys pack it out at 9:00 at night. You guys are like, yeah, it's great.
Like I say, we're the greatest heavy metal band in Park Slope that goes on before 9 p.m.
Yeah. As my booking guy Kevin's like, he's like, yeah, ask me if he wants to go on later. He's like, nope, they want to get it done early. I'm like, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
no, and we
I
pack,
get it.
as you said, we pack it out, and
Yeah.
our people come out, and we have a great time, and we always not only love being in here, but we have drinking out in the front and everything,
Yeah.
hanging out. Yeah, so it's really become a good time. It's parent teacher night actually, yeah. But at the Lucky 13.
Yeah. Yeah. You said you met all your band. You met from your kid's school. Yes. That's awesome.
it. That's it. It's really funny, and what's always fun is that like there's always some new parents from our group like kind of coming in who haven't been here before, and like it's great. Like a few of them have been like a bit wide-eyed about the dancers. You know
Oh,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
They've been like a little like, what kind of place is this? But they're like they. They pretty much see how cool it is, And then after a while, then they were like, "Oh, I was at Lucky 13. I was at the biker bar." Then. It's like,
Listen, we have bands whose wives won't let them play here because of the dancers. So
well,
Yeah, my wife got me on a curfew.
yeah,
I had to be out before the sun goes down, bro, because that's when the party starts.
that's when trouble starts. Yeah, exactly. So it's fun. So it's like, that's great. We're coming out with we recorded some of the songs. It's original songs, so we recorded those, and we're gonna come out with a record in October. And just that's just a fun side thing. It's just I love music. I love playing it. People say, "Are you great?" I said, "No. I stand next to great with a movie camera, and I film great. I am. We're just a bunch of dads playing some music."
yeah. How long you been playing guitar? A long time.
Yeah, a while, but whatever. I should be a lot better for the amount of time I've had that guitar. But
get it.
it's like, but I love it. But whatever. I mean, again, that's the wonderful thing about an instrument, any instrument, in this case, guitar, is that it's a it's a pursuit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's always better. It's like, it's like I sit and talk to Alex Skolnick, and he's always trying to get better, and I'm like, God, he's just great.
He's trying to get better. Is he out of his fucking mind?
That's-
He's fucking great.
That's exactly what I'm saying. It's like you look at him and you hear him talking to these jazz guys, and it's just like, oh my God, there's still, horizons to conquer and all that stuff. So it's amazing.
Every time I bumped into him, I keep meaning to ask. Somebody had posted on Facebook at one point, some girl said, posted, tell me something I don't know. And Alex Skolnick actually commented. It was on Twitter or something. Somebody posted it. He's like, E's in the minor of something and blah, blah, blah. He did this whole guitar thing. But I'm just porn girl. I was like, tell me something I don't know. I was like, I wonder if he really did that or somebody else did that.
That's really fun. That's the kind of answer he'd give. Very thoughtful and, not what you were thinking it would be.
Yeah.
So do you play?
I play bass, yeah. I play bass. And I should be better than I am also. And I was actually in a band. We broke up about a year ago pretty much, but we got signed to a label and then it all fell apart, so it was
that's usually where things go wrong.
Yeah,
The label gets involved.
Yeah.
What about you? You play?
Yeah, I've been looking for some people for a while now. I'm just gonna start recording on my own and put all my stuff together and then have some people hear it. If you can play it, you can play it.
Excellent.
I got to get together. My girlfriend's a drummer. I should be playing with her, and I don't. So I got to start doing that kind of stuff.
You got free rehearsal space.
And look at this.
I know. It's great having a stage to play on whenever I want to. It's kind of nice.
But it's like that probably is why you don't play. It's all here and available, so you don't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like if you had a gym, what I mean? You never use it.
Yeah. I used it during COVID. When COVID happened, I had nothing else to do. So a whole bunch of us brought our gear down here and we just kind of
play.
Yeah, that's it. And we had to use it for something.
I love that you made the stage bigger.
It's much
I love
better,
what
right?
you did.
Yeah, thanks.
Took away the dressing room and just made the place bigger.
Yeah,
And the PA's gotten way better. I love it.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, it was great too. And we did that right before COVID too. We ripped that all apart, and then COVID hit. I was like,
Exactly. Well, thank you for staying through COVID, and you're still here. That's what I'll say.
Yeah. Well, Adam, man, it was awesome to have you on.
Solid,
Appreciate
man.
you coming out, man.
Thank you. Yeah. I love this. Thank you so much, man. Great to talk to you.
Thank you for what you gave us when I was a teenager.
I know.
Welcome. Yeah, it was a fun ride, and thank them. It was just wonderful to be along.
I'm looking forward to see what you keep doing, man, because I'm looking forward to the horror movie coming out.
Yeah. Well, we could always talk again about it.
We definitely will when it comes out.
Absolutely.
And I would love to do a screening of Murder in the Front Row here at some
Let's
point.
do it.
This month is great. Whatever, we'll figure it out. We'll
figure
talk
it out.
off the air. But
you figure when it's a good time. But
I'm
happy to come
I would
in
love to do that.
and talk about it. It's always fun to have people come down. Great questions, and people are very interested in what's going on with that.
So look out for that. We'll figure out. We'll advertise for that shit. All right, Adam. Again, thank you very much, man.
Thank you.
All right, make sure you guys go out and subscribe. Everything Lucky 13. Come down to Lucky 13 Saloon. Maybe you might bump into Adam. Maybe you might bump into Alex. Maybe you might bump into Jeff, Jamal. You never know. Just come down and buy some beers, drink out, and listen to some heavy metal, man. You guys enjoy your night, bro. Peace.
Later.